This is The Daily Rule. I'm your host, Bryce Prescott, and welcome to your insider access to the mindset, skill sets, and habits of the truly successful. These rules of success are short 10 to 15 minute messages, making it easy to consume and share for maximum impact. Here's today's Daily Rule. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of The Daily Rule. This is your host, Bryce Prescott. I want to just start off by saying this. I really appreciate you as listeners to the show, and not only that, I trust you. I recognize that there are times where I share messages, I'll do episodes that seem to contradict an idea that I've shared previous. And that actually is kind of how life works. That's how success works. It's possible to have something like yesterday's sunken cost fallacy be 100% factual and true for you. And that it's okay to quit, and it's okay to look past the current situation and challenges and want to just be done with it and to move on and to be in a different spot. While at the same time having today's message be just as true. Today I wanted to talk about something that I was reminded of as I was speaking with a client of mine, and we were discussing meditation, and we were discussing journaling, and discussing the entire need for that, the impact associated with needing a powerful morning routine. And to cut right to the chase, the reason why we need a powerful morning routine, and the reason why I've decided to bring it up for today's rule, is that everything about our life is associated with how we feel. We are the placebo effect. For those of you that might not be familiar with that phrase, the placebo effect is a theory, and it's a scenario they use in studying whether or not drugs work. There'll be a group that will be needing specific help, and they'll have a drug that will supposed to be able to help them, and they will give that group the drug. And then they'll have another group that has the same symptoms and same diseases and whatnot, and they will give that group a sugar pill, but they will tell that group that they are receiving the actual drug as well. And there's been time after time proven that the power of the mind is very powerful. When you believe something is working and you decide that it is what you think it is, the universe crafts an entire new experience around you. And the placebo effect as a tool in experiments it works every time. Now, naturally, it doesn't work to the same effect as the medicine because you're dealing with different individuals. But the point I'm getting at is that if you feel and think and quote, know, unquote, that something is what you think or say it is those things. And when you strip away what that means, it's what I wanted to talk about today, that everything in your life is associated with how you feel. Your circumstance, your life, the way that you choose to show up, it's all predicated on how you feel about things. Fear is very real. Anxiety is very real. So is joy and pleasure and excitement. And you have the capacity and the power within your mind and in your body to conjure up the way you think and feel about any given scenario based off of your conditioned responses in the past, based off of the power you've given to ideas, and based off of the willingness you've had to be uncomfortable. Now, this sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, I bet. Like, you're like, what are you talking about, Prescott? Like, is this all some unicorns riding rainbows garbage? Okay, I get it. I got to feel better. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, let me just break it down here. You are responsible for what you create, and what you create is attached to how you feel. Yes, you have a say in what your life is, the results you experience, and the passion behind any action that you take. But what you don't have a say in is the foregoing of your responsibility. It's impossible, truly impossible, to just let God take the wheel, so to speak, when you do not feel up to playing and experiencing your potential. You are constantly creating. What ends up happening is that we engage this, I'll call it the law of passive attraction. And we create a life whose main ingredient is apathy. God's there, present, source, connection, all that stuff. I'm using the name God as a way to describe kind of the all that is aspect of our experience. But the difference between the life that you want and the one that you don't has nothing to do with God. It has to do with you. And we create our lives, whether we recognize it or not. We choose even when the choice isn't a deliberate choice. Now, this concept is something that's eluded me for years. It wasn't until I was able to see that everything that we think, everything that we feel, everything that we say, everything that we do, they're all steps in a specific direction. And you and I have a say in that direction by virtue of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. The truth is that when you live unconscious, when you're not thinking about any of this stuff, when you're just a rudderless boat out at the sea, you still end up molding your future. You just do it without acknowledging what you're doing, without acknowledging what you're actually choosing. You're in an odd way choosing apathy, and that's bringing with it a whole entire set of consequences and results that you might not even like. You're just apathetically choosing it. Everything is a choice. So if that's true, then that also means that everything has a consequence. And it's only when you see that every action or inaction has a movement towards something that you will start to understand, and it will be a recipe for either a great life or not. I've talked a bunch about my favorite author, T. Harv Eker. He once said, awareness is the first step to create change. He's right. Awareness is the first step to create change. You have to know about something in order to be able to change it. One of the first steps towards a better life is to actually become extremely self-aware, not only of your choices, but of your feelings. Now, try this. Imagine for a moment that every word that comes out of your mouth is not just words or a description or, an interpretation of what is happening to you, a reactionary sort of description, but it's a specific instruction, as if you were partners with God or the universe. What would it mean to say, I am sick in that moment, or I am healthy, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm rich, I'm broke? Now, are you actually saying things as they really are? Or are you stating your experience of how things are? Consider those two different statements. Are you stating how they actually are, or are you stating your experience? Are you actually sick, or are you experiencing sickness? Are you actually broke, or are you experiencing poverty? I want to tell you a story that illustrates this perfectly, right? There's a guy, a young Russian student. His name was Sergei Sudev. And he was from Moldova. And he was left by a rich uncle, a benefactor, a 950 million euro fortune. He hadn't seen any members of his family for 10 years. But for some reason, this odd uncle that he had seen 10 years ago, this very wealthy uncle, thought he was kind of a great kid and decided to put him in his will. Now, Sergei, he's a young Russian student. He had no idea what was up. He had no idea that he stood to inherit almost $1 billion in fortune. He was a journalism student. He was just doing his thing, going about his ways. One day, then, there was a knock on his door, and his uncle, who had recently passed, his lawyers tracked him down and told him he was set to inherit almost €1 billion, 950 million euros. Now, this kid was blown away. He's like, this is a joke? Now, here's the reality. From the moment that he was put in his uncle's will, he stood to inherit that money. And the second that his uncle passed on, that money was his. He was technically, I'll just call it for what it is. It's not totally a $1 billion, but we'll use that. He's a billionaire. Didn't even know it, but was a billionaire. So when he woke up that morning before the uncle had sent his lawyers, was he a billionaire? Yeah. Was he experiencing the life of a billionaire? No. See, we are all billionaires. We have access and connection in collaboration with an infinite source in the universe, in God. We just have to tap into allowing the experience of all of that resource to come to us by allowing it to be and learning the different steps and the keys to unlock that. Going back to the beginning of this episode, that's why it's so important in meditation and journaling and your fitness to feel like you are the heir of wealth and riches beyond compare. Feeling that you're blessed, that you're full of love and light. Feeling that life is a blessing. There's all sorts of evidence that point to the contrary. I get it. But just like with young Sergey, he woke up that morning, he was a billionaire. He didn't know it. But he had access to nearly unlimited resources. He just didn't know yet. So how does that apply to you? Ask yourself, do you know all the blessings that are coming your way? I bet you don't. So how about you take charge in that and allow yourself to feel what it would be like? Put yourself in an emotional place to know how it would feel to live and experience the exact life that you want. Have your feelingness cross over from the plane of wanting to experiencing it. The reason why I harp on meditation and expression of gratitude and taking action is because underneath it all, this is the foundation of what we're trying to settle into. We're trying to settle in the fact that we are heirs to whatever fortune we want. And I use the word fortune not just to include riches or wealth. It includes health. It includes family dynamic and relationships. It includes doing what we want for a spiritual purpose. We're not required to just live these meaningless lives. It's up to us to choose and to step into this as a reality. And it's all about feeling this. I'm aware that this might have been kind of heady as a daily rule, but I'm hoping that what you take from it is that whenever you're feeling certain things, recognize that it's passing and that you're not required to stay in that horrible place. What you think you know is where you should be doing the most questioning. When you think you have it figured out, that place is where you get to ask better questions. What I want for you is a ridiculously abundant life, and I know you can have it. I'm doing my best to set an example for that as I take upon things that statistically shouldn't be happening. 44-year-old guy trying to be a stand-up comedian that's one of the greats. It's too late, Bryce. Can't do it. Or do I just have to figure out the combination lock of how I feel and understanding the path and being open to having it show up in a certain way, and I can actually do it? I choose that to be my belief. So what's yours? Reach out to me. Let me know. I want to help you get there. All this stuff is converging. It's faith. It's the sunken cost fallacy. It's feelingness. It's believing that we're a part of a universally abundant place where there's more resource we could ever want to tap into. And you have access to it through your feelings and through your decisions. My friends, let that sit in for a little bit. and I'm going to wrap this up. You know the drill. Love your life. Live out loud. And like I always say, until next time, take it a day at a time. I'll see you. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Daily Rule. If you'd like assistance applying today's rule to your life, I invite you to click the link in the show notes and download my free assessment tool, The 3 Methods, that helps you to know exactly where you should focus your attention for the quickest transformation. As you're aware, the opportunities to be coached directly by me are limited, but if you'd like to see if you're a fit for us to transform your performance and your mindset together, making your life exactly what you've always hoped it would be, reach out to me at bryce@rulesofsuccess.com. Also, if today's episode resonated with you, I ask that you please head to iTunes and leave me a 5-star rating and review. That link is also in the show notes. Thanks again for joining me for The Daily Rule.